With ever-increasing numbers of non-Arabs accepting Islam, dissatisfaction at the unequal tax policy of the Ummayyads grew. Riding this wave of discontent, another old family of Mecca rose to take control of the Caliphate for themselves, the Abbasids. The Abbasids take their name from the uncle of Prophet Abbas, who was the patriarch of the clan. They had settled in the land east of the Jordan River after the conquest of Syria and generally stayed out of the politics as the civil wars of 600s raged. But sometimes in early 700s, they began to circulate a rumor that one of the descendants of Ali had officially transferred the right to rule to the Abbasids. Why he may have done this, or if it even happened in the first place, is a mystery. From a practical standpoint, it gave legitimacy to the Abbasids. Not only were they more closely related to the Prophet than the Ummayyads were, but they could also claim to uphold the desires of those who supported Ali's descendant as leaders of the Muslim world. From their base in southern Syria and later in Iraq, they sent agents east to Khorasan, where the Persian population could be counted on to support a revolt against the oppressive Ummayyads. Throughout the 730s and 740s, oaths of alliance and networks of allies were formulated far from the Ummayyad base in Damascus. With promises of a more equal society under their caliphate and vague assurance that the descendants of Ali would play a greater role in Muslim government, which was major desire for many Muslims in the eastern part of the empire, the Abbasids were able to secure backing from a wide spectrum of society. Support came from pious-minded worshippers who desired to see a government more in line with the Prophet's ideals, non-Arab Muslims who resented their second-class status, and loyalists to the house of Ali who believed rule should belong to the Prophet's family. In 747, the Abbasids formally declared their open revolt, unfurling their distinctive black banners in the skies above the city of Merv, in the far east of the Muslim world in the modern-day Turkmenistan. The revolutionaries were led by a mysterious figure known as Abu Muslim. Not much is known about him, but he does not appear to have been a member of the Abbasids family and was probably ethnically Persian. Under his brilliant political and military leadership, the Abbasids revolution quickly secured control of Khorasan, which was soon to serve as the base for the movement. Abu Muslim sent armies westward to the heart of Persia, where local Persian Muslims rose up against the Ummayyads and joined in the revolutionary fervor. What initially seemed like an insignificant expression of discontent in distant Merv now became a danger to the existence of the Ummayyad dynasty. As Abbasid armies flowed out of Persia and into the Arab world, Kufa, ever a hub of anti-Umayyad sentiment, rose up against its Umayyad governor and expelled him when the black Abbasids banner appeared on the eastern horizon. Once Kufa was liberated, formal oaths of alliance could be given to Abbasids claimant to the Caliphate, Abu al-Abbas. The revolution had a clear goal: widespread support throughout Persia, and now a leader to unite behind. Everywhere, the Umayyads were on the defensive as more people flocked to support the Abbasids. Meanwhile, rousing the Umayyad supporters proved to be a challenge. It had been decades since the last real threat to the Umayyads' position, and the Syrian army officers were content to remain on their estates, erroneously thinking the revolution would peter out. By the time the Umayyad Caliph Marwan II could muster together the Umayyad forces, Abbasids had already taken control of majority of Iraq. In early 750, at the climactic battle of the Zab in central Mesopotamia, the Abbasids forces completely routed the Umayyad army. Organized resistance to the Abbasids effectively ended after the battle. As Umayyad control collapsed throughout the Muslim world, now nothing stood between Abbasids and Umayyad capital, Damascus. One by one, cities capitulated and accepted Abbasid sovereignty, and one by one, members of the Umayyad family were hunted down and executed. Marwan himself was captured in Egypt, where he was unsuccessful in building an army that would drive back the Abbasids and re-establish Umayyad control. Only one member of the defeated family managed to escape the revolutionaries, the teen-aged Abdurrahman, a relatively obscure member of the Umayyad family, found a way to escape in disguise to North Africa. Pursued by Abbasids army from Palestine to Egypt to the Maghreb, and aided only by a slave who had once worked for his family, his legendary journey led him eventually to Al-Andalus, where he would establish an Umayyad emirate far from Abbasids' reach that would last almost 300 more years. The Abbasids revolution of the mid-700s inaugurated the second dynasty to control the Caliphate. The revolt was based on the ideas of building a government more in the line with prophetic ideals, giving non-Arabs a more equitable role in the society, and giving the descendants of Ali some role in leadership. These broad and idealistic promises were necessary to secure the support of various groups of the people that made the revolution successful. Once the Abbasids were in power, however, the reality of their caliphate fell far short of expectations. The revolution did not mean a return to the era of rightly guided caliphs, where piety and no politics dictated the decision of caliph. If anything, the Abbasid caliphs continued the same authoritarian traditions that they had denounced the Umayyads for. The caliphate remained a hereditary title in the possession of a Qurayshi family, and those who supported Ali's family as caliphs were left with unfulfilled promises. The Abbasi Caliph HaroonUrRashid was known for his immense wealth and diplomatic relations with distant states. In 802, he sent an embassy to Charlemagne in France that included an elephant and a water clock. The one area where Abbasids made real progress was the role of non-Arabs in society, although the caliphate itself remained in Arab hands. Administration was increasingly Persianized. For hundreds of years before Islam, the Persians had developed a complex but efficient bureaucratic system. Now that non-Arabs were no longer systematically discriminated against, this experience would be put to use in the administration of the empire. Recognizing the usefulness of the Persians caused the Abbasids to move the capital of the Muslim world closer to the Persian heartland. The second Abbasi Caliph Al-Mansur established a new city to serve as his capital in the fertile plain between the Tigris and Euphrates River in 765, near the old Persian capital of Ctesiphon. Within 20 years, Baghdad became the largest city in the world, with over 1 million residents. The seat of Muslim empire would become a metropolitan center where government, culture, science, and art would all intersect. A true understanding of the accomplishments of the Abbasi age does not come with discussions of military exploits and distant conquests, as it did with the Ummayyads. In fact, outward expansion essentially halted when the Abbasids came to power. Seasonal raids across the border with the Byzantines remained, but the campaigns were generally indecisive. In the west, the Battle of Tours in 732 in Umayyads' time meant the end of Muslim expansion into Europe, and consolidations of gains in Al-Andalus was the main focus of Umayyads' refugees who controlled it. In the east, only incremental gains were made in creating inroads into the Central Asia. The Turks, who roamed the Central Asian plains, would not come into Islamic civilization through conquest, but through migration into the heartland of Islam in the 800s and 900s. The era of Muslim military conquest was over for the time being. Instead, the era of Muslim intellectual conquest was about to begin.